Hi, everyone, and thanks for visiting the Horizon League Network. Once again, alongside Adam Coppinger, I'm Damon Lewis, coming to you today from inside Hinkle Fieldhouse, the site of the 2010 Speedway Horizon League Men's Basketball Championship. Obviously, Adam, last night, the first round of games got underway at campus sites. 4 games to go through. Let's start taking a look back at each of those games. We'll start with the 3-seed Green Bay against the 10-seed Youngstown-State. A win for the Green Bay Phoenix, 81-67 at the Resch Center.
Protecting their home court, kind of doing what we basically expect them to do. Youngstown-State made it interesting for a little bit there, and then Green Bay made that final run and just kind of put the game out of reach.
It was a very interesting game, one that I paid a little bit closer attention to during our Horizon League Network live blog that people came and found last night while the games were going on. Close game up until that 10-0 run, as you mentioned, and it was back-to-back threes by Troy Cotton and Berquise Perrine that sort of broke Youngstown State's back a little bit. Great night for Perrine, 21 points total, 16 for Ramon Fletcher, and the Phoenix will move on here to Hinkle Fieldhouse. Second game we want to talk about, maybe the most entertaining game of the night, number 6 Valparaiso coming up short on their home floor against the 7-seed Detroit. The Titans advance by winning 89-82.
A really tough matchup for Valparaiso. They're a home team, but I don't know how many people we talked to that thought Valparaiso was going to run away with this game. Detroit's a really solid squad, and their physicality really just wore on Valpo as the game went on. Corey Johnson had a great game, but when Chase Simon, Andy Eli Holman, and Xavier Killing, all these guys get going, Detroit's very difficult to beat.
Simon, 24 points. Holman, 21 points, 15 rebounds. The Titans shot 56% from the field, 61% in the second half. When they do that, that's an awfully scary ball club.
Well, they're not going to play Valpo again. That's the other side of that coin. Valparaiso is not one of our strongest defensive teams in the Horizon League, and they're going to have to come here now, get a taste of Green Bay again for the third time, obviously, and two two-point games in the regular season, so this one should be good.
Talk a little bit about that matchup coming up in just a minute. Again, sort of tough luck for Valparaiso and Homer Drew's club. They made 10 3-pointers in that game last night and still lost on their home floor. So
a few of those threes, though, late. Really late, and when they kind of were trying to get back in, and Detroit kept making their free throws, and they didn't end up mattering.
Third game we need to discuss is obviously the 4 versus 9 matchup last night. That was Milwaukee and UIC. The Panthers advanced 73-67, but really a game that came right down to it the last few seconds.
Yeah, Milwaukee could not put away UIC, and a big reason why was turnovers. You turn the ball over 20-plus times, you're going to have to make up for it in a lot of ways. They rebound the ball really well, but when you turn it over that much, your rebounding becomes negated, and then a team like UIC could get a chance at the end of the game, and last night they did.
Really balanced effort from the Panthers. 12 points for James Ayers, Anthony Hill, and Lonnie Boga. Ayers also had 10 rebounds to go along with his 12 points. A nice effort from Robo Krebs, 20 points for the UIC Flames. Just didn't really have anyone that could run with him consistently because the Flames were in so much foul trouble in this game.
I really liked how Lonnie Boga played. I thought Boga gave them some good minutes. He's a guy whose minutes have been up and down all year, and he was really efficient last night and played hard.
Anthony Hill, playing well at the right time of the year, continues to be a force for the Panthers here down the stretch. Final game we need to discuss that took place last night was actually the first game that got started. Number 5 seed Cleveland State defeating the number 8 seed Loyola 80-66. A score that you see a lot of separation, but this game got close in the second half.
Loyola made a big run because Cleveland State really controlled that first half. They did a nice job getting scoring from just about everybody. Guys were coming off the bench, knocking down shots. It was great to see Trey Harmon back in the lineup for Cleveland State. Charlie Woods was hitting shots. Lance James got in the game and played well. Norris Cole, though, 11 assists, no turnovers. That's big time.
Cleveland State, they're up by 20 in the first half at one point, 42-22. The lead was cut to 5 with 8 minutes left. Loyola expended all that energy just trying to get themselves back into the game. When they cut it to a 5-point margin, well, then Cleveland State ran off 7 straight points and pretty much put the game out of reach.
Jeremy Montgomery has the flair for the dramatic. He hits big shots for them, those big, tall rainbow threes that you feel like they scrape the ceiling and go right through the net.
Baron Davis look, I believe you mentioned last night.
Yeah, his beer, a little bit of Baron Davis. Him and Lance James. Lance James has that Baron Davis look, too.
Let's go ahead and look ahead to Friday night's second round games, which, as we said, will take place here at Hinkle Fieldhouse. The first game will get underway at 6 o'clock Eastern, and that will feature the number 3 seed Green Bay taking on the number 7 seed Detroit. As you mentioned, Adam, 2 very close games during the regular season
that Green Bay won both of. So they found a way to make the plays at the end of the game And, of course, that helps when you're more experienced and they are more experienced, and you have that experience in the backcourt, and that really helps. It helps you in close games.
Ramon Fletcher was fantastic in both games for Green Bay. 24 points the first time around against Detroit, 16 points the second time around. If you ask me, just a couple days ago, Woody Payne was named co-defensive player of the year. He plays for the Detroit Titans, obviously. Hey, here's a chance, Woody Payne. Slow down Ramon Fletcher. He killed your team both times in the regular season. Go out and prove it here on the biggest stage they've played on this year.
The two lefties, so he'll know the tricks that Ramon Fletcher's trying to do to get back to that left hand and throw up those floaters. Player to watch is Chase Simon. He's played pretty well against Green Bay this year. He fouled out of one of the games, so he's going to have to stay in the court. And I feel like I say the same thing all the time with Detroit. If their key players can stay out of foul trouble, because Chase Simon and Eli Holman are prone to reaching and picking up a couple quick fouls. If they stay on the court, Detroit, I think, has a really, really good shot on a neutral court at winning this game.
Foul trouble was an issue both times around for Detroit. That second game against Green Bay, Eli Holman limited to just 24 minutes due to foul trouble. But in those 24 minutes, 8 points, 9 rebounds. Stay on the floor, Eli Holman. You can be productive against this team. But let's not take anything away from Green Bay here. I know we're talking an awful lot about Detroit. That Green Bay game last night, obviously they were playing Youngstown-State, which was a close game for a long time. But when Green Bay gets going, we're talking Fletcher, Perrine, Cotton, Barry getting offensive boards, Pat Nelson getting offensive boards. Boy, they're scary. I mean, when they're hitting on all cylinders offensively, they can put points up in a hurry.
When they don't turn the basketball over, they are really, really efficient. They shoot a high percentage. They shoot well. When one of them gets going from three, it seems like a couple guys get going from three, and it just becomes contagious. And they shot well. I think they were 6 of 11 in one of their games against Detroit this year from three. So that's something where they can get some points from three that Detroit might have a hard time with because they're so streaky shooting three-pointers.
Again, that game's 6 o'clock. Eastern time, Friday night here at Hinkle Fieldhouse. The winner of that game will advance to take on the Wright-State Raiders in Saturday's semifinals. Now, second game of the night should get started at about 8 o'clock Eastern, 8:15, 8:30. Obviously, it'll depend on how long the first game takes. But that'll feature the Milwaukee Panthers and Cleveland State Vikings. The 4-5 matchup should be a good battle.
It's really scary to me for the Panthers in this game that you turn the ball over 21 times against UIC, and now you have to play Cleveland State. And they did not take care of the ball against Cleveland State. They had 17 turnovers and 12 turnovers. So that's 29 in 2 games against Cleveland State. Cleveland State only turned it over 10 times in 2 games against the Panthers. So they're going to have to force a little bit more turnovers and turn the ball over less, kind of squeeze that turnover margin down a little bit. But with the way Norris Cole's playing, they're not going to give you too many.
These two teams split their regular season matchups. Milwaukee losing at Cleveland State 73-72, then winning at home just a couple of weeks ago against Cleveland State by a 10-point margin, 69-59. If you ask me, really great chance for Milwaukee here to try and expose the lack of depth in Cleveland State's front court. You have a lot of big bodies, Rob Jeter. And we've talked about the identity of this team. Well, Anthony Hill's been playing great, and James Ayers is starting to show up a little higher in those box score totals and so on. Cleveland State, I mean, it would be wrong to say they're thin up front because Aaron Pogue's a big body, and Jared Cunningham's a big body as well. But if they get in foul trouble, there's not a whole lot behind that. If you want to talk about thin, try putting Charlie Woods on someone like Anthony Hill or James Ayers. That'd be trouble for the Vikings.
Joe Lattis did have a season high last night. He's another big body, but he's not someone that Coach Waters wants to put out there for an extended period of time. The rebound margin is where Milwaukee's going to have to make up some of those points, because I don't think they're going to cut their turnovers down as much as Coach Jeter would like. They'll have to make up some of those points in the rebound margin. Cleveland State rebounded pretty well last night against Loyola. They got a lot of offensive rebounds. They seem to maybe have a little bit of confidence going. Charlie Woods is a guy that can get down there and at least tip balls out. And Lance James is a kid where if you see him, he's a truck. He's not tall, but he's a truck. He'll get in there and stick his nose in there. Cleveland State's really going to have to battle on the boards to make it as close to even as they can to have a good shot at this game.
They did look awfully good at times last night when they're hitting three-pointers and deep jump shots. This becomes a completely different ball club. Jeremy Montgomery, Trey Harmon both did a fantastic job last night against Loyola. One other thing to factor in, Adam, historically, Rob Jeter ball clubs have not played well here inside Hinkle Fieldhouse. And on the other side of the coin, you got Gary Waters, who brought his team in here last year and won the entire Horizon League tournament. No stats or anything to back that up, but just something to consider. That game, as we mentioned, will get started at about 8 o'clock Eastern, depending on how long the first game of the night takes place on Friday night here at Hinkle Fieldhouse. Two really good matchups. Should be fantastic matchups. And also what you need to know is that your team's press conferences after each game will also be shown on the Horizon League Network. The games themselves will be shown right on the front page, right on the Horizon League channel of the Horizon League Network. Post-game, your team's press conference can be found on your team's channel. Myself, Will Haskett, will have the call on the first game, and then myself and, we made a call to the bullpen and brought in a Wright-State Raider. Chris Collins and I will have the call on the second game of the second round taking place Friday night here inside Hinkle Fieldhouse. Thanks for watching and supporting the Horizon League Network. Enjoy the tournament the rest of the way. We'll be with you from, well, it's already started, but we'll obviously be with you through the finish as well. Enjoy the games Friday night here from Hinkle Fieldhouse.